will be placed in listen-only mode. When sharing a question, please mention your name and your organization name with us. You may use the chat feature to share your point of view as well. Please use a steady internet connection for a seamless experience. You may use wired or wireless headphones or speakers for enhanced audio experiences. And in case you face issues with connectivity, you may use the Zoom app on your smartphones to join the session. Thank you. Over to you, Vidit.
Right. Hi, good morning, everyone. And welcome. We will be starting all the sessions in the next couple of minutes as we await some of the other panelists to join in. So quickly, we're about to start and we'll be back shortly. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first day of the inaugural edition of Brandwagon Conclave and ACE Awards 2020, organized by Financial Express, the business daily from the Indian Express Group, presented by Zplex, co-presented by MX Play, Daily Hunt, Josh and Colors by Vicom 18, supported by IAA India, Knowledge Partner, Retail Day One, and Industry Partner, IAMAI. Before we begin today's session, I'd like to invite Mr. Anant Goenka, Executive Director, the Indian Express Group, for a welcome address.
All right, hello. Good morning. Thank you, Vidit. And a very good morning to everybody who's joined us today. Great pleasure for me to invite you to the inaugural Financial Express Brandwagon Conclave. It's a very interesting time, ladies and gentlemen. I know that every one of us is inundated with information of how disastrous the pandemic has been for our respective companies and our economy. So I will restrict to sharing just one data point to give context to where our industry is today. Total advertising spends last calendar year was 76,600 crores. It is likely to decline to 56,300 crores this calendar year. That's a 26% degrowth in ad spends. And we had entered the year projecting over 10%. This includes a 5% degrowth in digital advertising. Now, as bothersome as this sounds, I think through this unprecedented pandemic, there are three things that we should remember to be grateful for. First, today, by and large, I think that the first thing we should be grateful for is that today, by and large, the internet is reasonably accessible across the country. I mean, can we imagine being locked down without the internet? The second thing that we have to be grateful for is the immense camaraderie and compassion that our industry has had for each other. Whether it's our customers, our employees, our bosses, our competition, no matter where in the food chain our organizations stand in this marketing universe, there's been a tremendous sense of understanding and appreciation of each other's predicaments. And I think we must pause and recognize this at the beginning of the Brandwagon Conclave. We be grateful for, I think, are for the eternal optimists in our industries, many of whom are young, idealistic, and are powering our industry, indeed our economy's revival and growth. Whether it be education, e-commerce, gaming, entertainment, these are people by and large who are digital natives or people who have virtually become as good digital natives, many of whom will be speaking at the Brandwagon Conclave and who have entered, been nominated for, or have won the Brandwagon ACE Awards. They have shown tremendous agility and used the digital medium to find ways to reinvent their businesses and form long-lasting, direct relationships with their customers. And they have all started increasing their ad spend significantly in the past few months. Which is why I feel if there's one major trend that will emerge and that almost emerges from all such conferences and meetings is the fact that the scale of production and the might of distribution aren't going to be enough for business success. I think it's finding that authentic, credible, responsible voice for each and every brand is going to be just as critical for meaningful long-term business success as any of the other core business processes. So on the one hand, you've got brands that are seriously investing in creating customer data platforms in their effort to learn about consumer behavior. They're optimizing marketing spends using artificial intelligence and machine learning. Uh, on the other hand, you've got marketing that isn't just about leads, but is investing more than ever in creating an authentic voice and finding that emotional connect with the audience. I think that finding that emotional connect has again become critical to the marketing needs, even in this very digitized world. I think after witnessing 7 months of this pandemic, we find ourselves at a point in time where messaging and communication has never been more important. Content has never been less commoditized, and honest soul searching for a cause, a reason to be beyond the share of the customer's wallet, has never been more crucial for sustained results. Now, I've spent some time with marketing leaders around the world, including stalwarts like Unilever, Nitin Paranjpe and Harsh Mariwala, who say that forming an emotional connect and finding that purpose has never been as important as it is today as well. As a publisher of a fiercely independent news organization, I can share that our digital growth these past few months is just another testament to the audience's search for an original voice from domain experts told in an authentic voice. And which is also why I believe that as the world waits for the vaccine, humanity's freedom falling at one end of a pointy needle, never before has the Indian customer been as empowered as she is now. So I think the recovery of our industry is well underway. The onset of the festival season, along with the ongoing IPL, has brought so much energy to our space and much needed respite to the media and advertising industry. I think when the chips fall, I think this will be a time where our industry, especially digital advertising, we kind of get together and really will feel just so grateful for witnessing this in our industry's evolution. So thank you all so much for being here. We have a great lineup of speakers and panelists in front of you for a great conclave. Thank you again to the partners, Zplex, MX Player, Daily Hunt, and Colors. And I'm sure we're all going to have a great time through the conclave. Thank you all so much for joining us. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goenka. Moving on, it's now time for our keynote speaker. I'd like to invite Rajesh Ramakrishnan, MD, Profetti Van Melle, India, to share a few words with us about creating brands digitally.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Financial Express Brandwagon, for having me in this session. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been asked to speak about building brands digitally. And what I thought I'll do in the next 15-20 minutes is really talk about two parts, right? One is how technology and culture are so intertwined with each other and actually feed off each other, right? And the second part is focus on micro moments and really talk about how brands could leverage micro moments in order to be successful at what they do. Okay, with that, I will begin, where I just wanted to share something which I at least found interesting, which is that, there's no such thing as digital marketing or digital advertising. There is only good marketing and good advertising, and the medium could be digital or could be anything else as well. Something to keep in mind as we go forward in the presentation. Of course, one thing that has completely revolutionized our lives in the past few decades has been the internet, and that has fundamentally changed the way we look at things, the way we behave, the way we are today, right, in more ways than one. And that's something that has impacted pretty much the entire world. And what do I mean by that? If I look at it, technology was actually introduced for functional enhancement, right? But then if you really dig deeper, what it has done is it has steeped into the cultural fabric and really become a place where both technology and culture actually feed off each other. And as we all know, brand building is very, very contextual to the culture. And therefore, adapting to the digital culture would be a very, very critical aspect for digital marketers. So this is the part I was talking about where, technology and culture, as I said, they co-create each other and indeed feed off each other. And let me give you a few examples of this. Earlier, maybe many of you were not even born during those days, where a lot of search used to happen through file indexes. People used to spend time in libraries researching for material. Whereas today, of course, we know that, anything you need, there is Google and how. And sometimes, as this interesting and funny anecdote says, you don't even need to go to page 2. You find pretty much everything you need in the first 3 search engine that pop up from there, right? So that's how things are changing today. And that is also meant we also have changed in our behavior along with it, right? So for example, earlier, it used to be about asking directions, having a map with us. If you are traveling to a place, calling up a few people and asking them for recommendations. Today, we just read reviews, right? And so much so that the reviews actually extend to people as well. So, hey, what do you think of this person? Can you rate this person on a scale of 1 to 5? I mean, we've become, everything is about ratings and reviews, and that's what governs our life. Also, interestingly, what's happened is earlier we used to remember phone numbers, we used to remember birthdays, but those have now become so much into our social media that our memory and attention span has also got significantly impacted. So clearly, technology does have a role to play in the way we are seeing some cultural shifts that are happening around us. Another interesting thing, and relevant more so in today's context, earlier for a lot of products and services, we used to go out of the house. Whereas today, again, thanks to technology, we have that readily available at our fingertips. So whether it is about knowing what's right for your skin or about cooking up a recipe, everything is there with you at your fingertips. And that's what makes this whole do-it-yourself thing so big. And last but not the least, shopping. Earlier, shopping was a big experience of going out to a shop with the family or with friends, browsing through things and seeing what you wanted to pick up. Whereas today, you could be attending a meeting. For all I know, this is a virtual conclave. Many of the people attending this could literally be browsing through what should I shop next for myself. So shopping is really available at our fingertips, and that has completely changed the way people look at shops and shops look at customers. So in summary, really what I'm saying here is everything is about having instant information, knowing people remotely, even shopping virtually. So people have all of this at their fingertips. And in that sense, fundamental change in behavior and culture has happened thanks to technology. And marketing really is all about understanding the consumer, leveraging those consumer insights, and doing something to address those insights. And it is no different in this case. So now let us move to how marketers could potentially leverage this. The one opportunity that I would like to speak about is really around addressing micro moments. Again, not a new concept. Probably many of you in this session know about it, but I thought I'll spend some time talking about the micro moments themselves, but also how even a impulse category like confectionery could look at addressing the micro moments to be there at the right place at the right time. So what is a micro moment? Micro moment, I think the important thing to know here is it is an intent-rich moment, which means that person who's got a device with him or her is going to reach out to a device with a very strong intention. The intention could be to go, to do, to know, or to buy. And we'll see a little bit of each of these and some examples in the subsequent slides. Okay, so according to Google, what are the 4 game-changing moments that really matter? There is an I want to know moment, right? When I'm researching about something, maybe I want to go on a holiday, maybe I want to know about something, could be anything, right? So there are these I want to know moments. The other one could be I want to go. I want to buy something, or I want to avail of a product or a service nearby, and I want to know where is it available and who can do it for me. Then there are these I want to do moments, which is really about, again, extremely relevant in today's context where Many of us are doing work from home and attending virtual conferences and seminars. I want to do, so maybe I want to learn something new or pick up something which I used to do before. So therefore, it could be baking, it could be singing, it could be pottery. So how can you participate in the I want to do moments? And the fourth one is, of course, I want to buy, which is all about shopping, right? When I'm ready to make a purchase and I want to buy something, how can brands play a role in that moment? And for marketers to be successful and to really leverage these micro moments, what we need to do is three things. One, we need to be there in that moment, right? So make sure our brand is there in that moment. The second is not only being there, but being useful and relevant to the need of the consumer in that moment. And the third is to be quick, right? Nobody's got patience today, and therefore the experience needs to be fast and it needs to be frictionless, right? So those are a few things that marketers would do well to be aware of so that they can leverage the micro moment. So one of the interesting things is for as marketers, what we could do is consumers would like to get snackable content. They don't want long form read anymore. So brand and marketers would be benefited by giving them content in a very snackable kind of form. And let's look at a couple of examples. So Sephora, again, a lot of these examples are there in the fashion and beauty world, where, for example, Sephora, which is a famous brand, they figured out that when consumers are there in their shops, what they are looking for is a few things. One, reviews of certain products, how good they are, etc. Also, how would those products look on them? So understanding these needs of shoppers and consumers and making sure that they're able to provide that through leveraging technology was a great way for Sephora to actually take advantage of this and do something to meet those I want to know moments, right? Closer home, in the case of one of our brands, Chupa Chups, what we do is, the primary target for this is kids and teens. And whenever they type something like, I am bored, what can I do? Or I want to have fun. What we do is we have these games that we have created, which come there on the screen for as suggested things to do to take care of your boredom. And not only that, sometimes the prizes that you could win, it could be something like a gaming console. Again, something very related to what you're looking for. Then there are these I want to go moments, right? Where you're looking to either buy something or avail of a service or a product. Another good example, this is a UK-based company, Argos. So what they do, again, here it's all about integrating online and offline. So the way they operate is if consumer is looking or a customer is looking for something, they get the product, they build the product, they pay for it, and all they need to do is just drive past the store and pick it up on the way back from work. So that's something that significantly enhances the experience and takes care of the need of the consumer at that moment. The store locators, again, operate on a similar basis, where if you are able to identify the nearest store next to where you live, and you are able to then order a product or a service and avail of the benefit of that. Then there are these I want to do moments where it's all about how can I do, whether it is fixing a pipe or whether it is trying a new hairstyle or just cooking up a new recipe, right? And interestingly, here what we have done is, let me take an example of Alpenliebe. Now, Alpenliebe is all about bringing the family closer together and letting them have a good time with each other. So we have created this platform of do it yourself, which we started with Rakhi, and we intend to take it forward into other festivals as well, where we encourage customers or consumers to participate in a contest where they create Rakhi with Alpenliebe and with whatever else they can find. And obviously the most creative designs are given prizes, and we use influencers to further build this. And the whole point is, what does it do? It allows consumers to express their creativity. It also gets the families closer together because they're doing something together, and it really builds on brand equity as well. So here is a good example of leveraging technology, being in that I want to do moment, and actually also building the equity for the brand. Another interesting example around Alpenliebe jellies. Again, we know that Indians have a sweet tooth, and jelly is an impulse product. But the whole point was, can we get more in home by making sure that we could be part of recipes of the desserts that consumers make. So we tied up with influencers, we tied up with celebrity chefs, and got consumers to start making desserts using our products, and also timed in such a fashion that they were around the festivals that are there in India, which are also moments when a lot of people make desserts, and desserts are consumed in copious quantities. So again, taking a cultural insight of being around in festivals, linking that to our product, being a part of that, making desserts, and making sure that we are able to tie all of that together to really act as a win-win for both the consumer and for the brand. And the last one is really around I want to buy moments, right? Which is about I want to shop for something and I'm ready to make that purchase. And can I now go and make that purchase? So good examples of this, there are many, but I just thought I'll talk about one or two. Esurance really is about making sure that once the consumer or customer has gone through all the processes of deciding which insurance to go with, they find algorithms to make sure that at the moment that the consumer is ready to make a decision to buy a policy, they are able to feed in the right messaging to enable the closure of sales, right? Another similar example in a confectionery category, for example, is, in real life, what happens is when you go to a supermarket, you buy what you need to buy. And as you are checking out is when you end up picking up confectionery, because they are, as you wait in the line, they are hanging there on either side, right? And then you end up buying some chewing gum and candies and so on and so forth. So similarly, we have tied up with, say, Milk Basket, Big Basket, and so on, where as they finish their shopping and literally while checking out, there are suggestions given on what confectionery or candies that you can purchase. And in that form, you mimic real life to the virtual world and are able to sort of close the sale at the moment of purchase. So these are few examples of how micro moments could be leveraged by brands in order to make sure that they stay relevant, they are able to quickly reach the consumer, and make sure they're able to build a strong engagement and connect with the consumer. I think I would like to end by saying that good marketing, of course, makes the company look smart, but great marketing is actually allowing the consumer or the customer to feel smart. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishnan, for the insightful session. We now open the floor for Q&A.
You spoke about capturing the right moment, which also means you need to have a great knowledge about your consumer, what the consumer goes about. So how much time do the companies spend in understanding the consumer behavior, especially of the confectionery category consumers?
That's a great question. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think everything starts with a deep understanding of the consumer. And the confectionery category is no different. Therefore, the marketeers, and in fact, some of the sales colleagues also, spend quite a lot of time understanding the consumer and the customer/shopper, right? And everything starts from there. And the other interesting thing I would say is, one is to understand needs of consumers and give products to take care of those needs. But you could even go one step further, where you start anticipating consumer needs, right? That reflects a deeper understanding of your consumers. So let me give you a simple example. We have lollipops, we have chewing gums, but a deep understanding of consumer led us to come with this thing that when we wanted to sell chupa lollipops, which are targeted towards teens, now there is a feeling amongst teens that lollipop is a very kiddie product, right? So that understanding enabled us to come with a product, differentiated product, which is actually a lollipop with a chewing gum inside the lollipop. So as you keep sucking on the lollipop, you reach a chewing gum, which you can then chew and then blow a bubble with, right? So in a way, you are upaging the consumer by leveraging a deep consumer insight, which then allowed you to come with a differentiated product offering.
The current scenario, which had businesses finding it rather difficult to reach the consumers, now finally the economy is opening up, but we still have to wait a little longer to see the old normal. In a scenario like this, how important is it to talk to your consumer every day? And one is reassuring your consumer, the other is being impactful or leading a cause. How important is that conversation?
Again, absolutely spot on. It is extremely important. The thing is, we talk about them as consumers, customers, and shoppers. End of the day, everybody is a human being, right? And if you look at around today, everybody is going through the same levels of anxieties, uncertainties. I mean, you don't know when this pandemic is going to end, when will it peak, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of things going on in everybody's mind, right? So as a responsible brand, one needs to be very mindful and aware of it, and therefore also, without deviating from your core proposition, brands need to find ways and means of taking care of consumers' needs in a most relevant manner. Again, I'll just give you one or two examples of that. Center Fresh chewing gum as a brand is all about fresh breath confidence, right? So we recently launched a digital campaign which said, "Stay fresh behind your mask." Now, we all know prolonged periods of wearing a mask makes us, the breath also a little bit stale behind the mask. And having a breath freshening chewing gum can actually help in making you stay fresh and therefore feel confident. So the core brand proposition didn't change. It just got manifested in a very relevant context in today's times. So I think treating the consumer as a human being who has the same kinds of anxieties, uncertainties, etc., and making sure that you're able to deliver core promise of your brand in a most relevant and meaningful manner is super critical, especially in these times.
When you now devise a marketing strategy, or say you roll out a new product over a period of say 6 or 8 months, how would the strategy be different from the pre-COVID era? How has the entire mechanism changed for you?
See, again, my belief is that the fundamentals of marketing don't change, right? The products that we offer are based on some strong consumer insights on one side, and therefore we develop products, and then they have to be true to what the brand stands for. So those fundamentals are not going to change. But yes, you are right, there will be some changes. And I'll give you a recent example. A month ago, we launched a new product called Alpenliebe Juicy Fills. Right? It is a filled candy in fruit flavors, orange and mango. So what we did was we enhanced the product with fruit juice and vitamin C. Because one of the insights we got is in today's time, when there is a greater level of sensitization around hygiene, health, fortification, immunity, etc., we said, why not offer those in our products as well? So this product, which has been launched as a filled fruit candy, also has fruit juice in it and vitamin C. Similarly, we are looking at launching certain products as we go forward. I can't share which products those are, which will have certain functional benefits built into it, which are again relevant in today's times. And then, of course, once you launch it, there is a need to create awareness, etc. So there will be, television, which will be used as a mainstream media. But as we all know, digital is getting immense traction and is also becoming a significant part of our mix in that sense.
So when you say digital has become a significant part of your mix, and TV of course is still an expensive medium, but how do we see you optimizing this trend now?
Sure. See, our products are pretty much available across the country. So, for example, any of our Perfetti products, if you look at the reach, it's about 4 million outlets, right? So, and our products cater to the entire segment of population as well. So, therefore, being on television is a must. But to your point, I think definitely there is optimization that is happening to say that while television is mainstream, if you want two-way engagement to happen, digital offers a great platform to do that. And therefore, if say 3 years back, our spends were in the range of 5% today they are, 2 to 3 times of that. And I think they will only keep going up in the years to come.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Rama Krishnji, for the insightful session. We now would like to move on to our next session. We actually move on to a presentation by Mr. Karan Bedi, CEO, MX Player, to talk about how data is driving decision making besides it's playing a key role in changing business strategies.
Hi, Vidit. Thank you for having me. Am I audible and visible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, and visible. I've got the video on as well.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I am just going to share my screen and then quickly start off. Is this visible to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to start off. So first off, thank you for having me here. I apologize in advance if the connection is slightly choppy. I'm about to start my presentation with something called the new normal. And as part of the new normal, I'm actually sitting in Himachal Pradesh because I guess I'm still working from home. And I figure if you're working from home, may as well work from whatever is the nicest place you can work out of. So I've been here for the last 5 weeks and continue to be here for some time. So I'm just going to very quickly start off with a quick sort of dive into what I think, this session is about data leading to decisions. And the first thing you need to do is you need to have data. And I think the one thing that digital is really, really good at is generating those reams of data. So I think the first thing that's happened in this new normal is that life has become digital. So, across, you can see that whether it's, during the lockdown, you saw that whether it was dine-in revenues, which are or footfalls, or whether it was travel, or whether all of these categories, as we all know, significant declines in being able to do this. So, sorry, is my slide not being able to not fully visible? I just got a message out there. Hold on, let me try and let me know if this is better. Is this better?
Yeah, Karan is better, but I think we would need the presentation in full screen if possible.
Right, this is about as full screen as it gets for me. I'm sorry, I don't know what part is being cut off.
No, it's nothing is getting cut off. I think we can just see the borders of the software.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I'm not being able to sort of get it more full screen than
Okay,
this.
not a problem. Not a problem.
The second thing, as you can see, is that even in the sort of online domain, what you've seen is that all of the categories that were dependent on offline have actually declined. And if you see those same categories for online, purely digital businesses, those have, shot up. So whether it was OTT, which is non-broadcast OTT, people like us, whether it was digital payments, shopping obviously took a hit, but then as soon as non-essential deliveries were allowed, e-commerce roared back. But as you can see from travel and food, it's been pretty dismal and continues to be. What are people doing in this new normal? In this new normal, as you can see, all of it is basically digital. Video calling obviously was something that jumped up. Conversations like this, enabled through Zoom and Google Meet and so on and so forth, really shot up. Streaming, which is our business, really shot up. E-learning, other social media, etc. All of these activities became the new normal. All outdoor activities, of course, went completely off the books. You can see events, films, television. Obviously, this was, these were categories that within media evolved, right? So, for example, as an event, we are sitting here doing an event where, the 100 or so people that are watching here are essentially in various different parts of the city of the country. I imagine I'm giving the speech from a very different part of the country. I would never have imagined being able to do this before. So very, very different evolutions of models coming up during this time. India, of course, became the absolute leader in consumer. So India, we always knew that India was a high media consumption country. Obviously, monetization is yet to follow, but certainly on video consumption, India is now the highest in the world in lockdown. Obviously, we had a very strong lockdown, so that's potentially part of it. But the highest in the world on lockdown was India, and I think that this continues to be the case even now post-lockdown, because we've certainly seen that happen. The other interesting thing that happened was, if you saw, the move to digital was sort of secularly non-broadcast. So what ended up happening is, because the broadcast industry didn't have new content, because shooting was obviously stopped and daily soaps are our sort of bread and butter, you saw that the non-broadcast sort of OTTs were the ones that saw a significant uptick. And what's happened is that, while of course now TV has come back, and even in the previous presentation I was watching a little bit, obviously it continues to be part of the media mix. I think what's happened is that people have become very clear that this is now the new normal. Digital OTT is now the new normal, and now it's a question of time as to whether this remains the new normal or changes back a little bit. But we all know in the long term it is certainly going to be that. So what does this do? All of this creates a lot of data. Content in the past has been about entertainment, has been about content and distribution. Today, entertainment is about content, distribution, and data. I think that that's a huge, huge difference between linear models of content distribution and non-linear models, which is the world we are in today. So linear models, by which I mean television, films in cinemas, etc., etc. But when you look at models of content today, you are looking at content distribution and data as a very, very big part of it. We have a lot of data. We have data across a bunch of different. We are an entertainment super app, so to speak, an everytainment app, as we like to call it. We've got across premium video. We're the #1 on premium video now. We have a fully fledged music service on the platform in partnership with our sister company Ghana. We have the leading short video platform Takatak on the platform. We have probably the largest casual gaming platform, and of course the local player continues to be a stronghold of MX's large user base. So we have a lot of different areas from which we collect data. In data, scale matters. Today we have more than 300 million monthly actives globally. That makes us one of the largest entertainment apps in the world. We have more than 120 billion minutes of time spent. We have an install base of more than 600 million across different countries. So all of this becomes very, very relevant in the kind of data that you need to actually make some of these active decisions. We process over 1 trillion data points a month. It's a very, very large amount of data. We do this across streaming, across music, across gaming, across short video, across our local player. It's a very, very large amount of data that we process every month. And that is actually the little bit of the secret sauce about data, which is that for it to be viable, for it to be relevant, for it to be useful, you need to have it at scale. Because when you're processing it at this level, you need to make sure these sample sizes are relevant. You can't do it off small sample sizes and expect to get data that is relevant to what you actually end up doing. And because decisions are taken with data, you need to do this. How do we compress all this on this data into what we call the sort of keys to success for what we want to do? I'm going to sort of attempt to talk about it in a little bit of our business. So I'm going to start with what I call the 4 C's of content, of OTT in this particular context. The first one is content. Today, India is not a market. I think we've known this in general about India, whether it is in marketing, whether it's in sales, whether it's in product design. India is not one market. India is hundreds of markets. In our sort of case, in the case of MX, we have seen that 60% of our audience base actually comes from outside the top 8 metros, and 40% of the base seeks non-Hindi content as well. So a huge amount of content is being created for Indian markets, and OTT has been very responsible for some of the high quality content being created in this. So because of that, and this has again happened because of data. When is the last time you actually watched anything, this audience, when is the last time you watched any piece of entertainment on TV? My guess is it's been a while. My guess is that most of your entertainment leads over the last year or so have been met by OTT. So the content that is created on OTT for you has been done specifically based on the insights that we have understood about the audience that we have and created for you. So you've seen, sorry, there's a bit of an error on this slide, but you've seen that content has moved. I'm using a couple of different examples here, but for a lot of the audience that I imagine over here, the content is moved. You can see that the resonance in terms of the themes are not that different, but the style of content, what you make, the tone, tonality, genres, everything has actually moved ahead. And a lot of this has been possible because we've had a lot of insight into what people are doing. One big example of this was Ashram. Today's, Ashram is probably India's largest web series to date. We've had more than 250 million streams. It's gotten massively positive reviews from everywhere. It's got, millions and tens of millions of users coming to watch it. It's huge. And this was a show that we originated at MX based on a bunch of research. We actually went out and said, what is something that people want to talk about in India? And we've talked about this in many forums before, but cricket and politics always make the list. So we thought that let us give a shot to the other side of this rather than cricket. And we did the R&D on this. We created a story. We then got the appropriate talent on board to do it. And it's a great example of a show that has done phenomenally well and was specifically created based on feedback, based on data collection that we could do. Second question for you. There are more than 500 million smartphone screens in India today. Again, I can't get an answer back on this forum, but my guess is that most people here don't know how many TV screens there are. There are less than 200 million actual TV screens in India. We are a single TV household country, and we have about 197 million TV households. So that means that the number of smartphone screens in India is more than double of what the number of TV screens in India are. So what this does is that it has changed prime time. It creates the convenience of being able to watch content when and how you want has now become essentially part of the new normal. So the content can be whatever it is. I mean, obviously we talked a little about the content we do, but the content can be different kinds of things. But the convenience of watching is now moved. The third thing, again, coming back to the use of data and linear versus non-linear content. How do you figure out what to watch? Today, you have hundreds of thousands of hours of content that you have access to through OTT services, unlike TV. And so TV is a linear medium. You have basically 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. is your sort of prime time slot. You would have 8 to 11:30, and you got a program for that slot. But and as a user that when you want to go there, okay, fine, this is coming at this time, I'll switch it on. This is what I get to watch. At best, you needed to go through a few channel guides or EPGs to figure out what was on different channels. Now you have lakhs of hours of content, hundreds of shows, thousands of shows, movies to watch. How do you figure it out? Data serves a big part of that. So the context of what we create for data has become critically important. So what we use is that with a lot of this data that is collected is actually every time you come on to an OTT. I mean, I will talk about MX in particular, but I would imagine many try to do this, and it's a difficult thing to do. The thing about processing all this big data, as you can see, the Indian IT industry has been built on the back of processing large quantities of data. What this data allows us to do is create context, so that when you come onto MX, you see something that is relevant to you. And this is, it starts out as, different cities and different states and all that stuff, but actually it comes down to an audience of one. You are you. While you may be in Bombay or you may be in Delhi, and therefore you may be a Delhiite or a Mumbaikar, but you are also just you. And you will have different preferences from the Mumbaikar that is 10 feet away from you. So as I mentioned before, we process over 1 trillion events a month to create this context. The last thing is a very different kind of data. I'm going to it's something that's a little bit different from what I talk about, I have talked about in the rest of this presentation. But data is also the amount of bandwidth that you consume, when you get into a particular, that when you use a OTT. Now, while India has had the cheapest bandwidth in the world for a long time, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had the cheapest bandwidth in the world. You've seen an explosion of content being consumed because of that cheap bandwidth, explosion of smartphones, explosion of 4G in every corner of the country. But even now, the reaction from the consumer when he looks at an app and he says, and he measures how much data it is, it says data bahut deta hai. So you still have consumers going in there and going into and measuring the number of MBs and GBs that a particular app takes. So what we do at MX is that we have used the old type of data, what I was talking about, to figure out this trend and then create the right kind of data. So the cost to the end consumer, remember that in OTT, the cost to the end consumer is not just a question of paying for content. MX, of course, is free, but there are services out there that charge you. So we have a large team that is investing in end-to-end proprietary video compression to make sure that the amount of data used to deliver video of high quality to a customer is less than what it would be in most of our other things. So in fact, our data compression technology is about 60% better than most of the peers in the market. And we can talk to you about it in some detail if anyone wants to know how we do it. But again, it's a lot of processing of data to be able to come to this, to understand it, take a decision on what to do, where to invest, and create that. So those are just the 4 sort of keys to success I wanted to talk about on the sort of decisions we take with data. As I was talking about, 70% better than most market comparables. What does this lead to? To round off my presentation, to just give you a very, very quick context on things, data leads to decisions, but decisions also lead to data. I think that loop is quite symbiotic. I think when you have a lot of data, you use that data, you have to use it wisely to create the right decisions and the right decision framework. But as you take those decisions, each of those decisions actually creates another data loop. That data loop creates more decisions. So that loop is very, very important to understand. It's important to invest in the right categories of being able to collect that data, in the right team to be able to analyze that, the teams and technologies to be able to analyze, and then be able to very quickly and nimbly take decisions based on that data. So that's what I wanted to leave you here with today. Thank you very much. And I'll just open that up to questions.
Thank you so much, Karan, for the insightful session. So we have, in fact, while we are moving to the Q&A round, we in fact have 2 questions for you. First one comes from Jitendra Jagwani, who asks you, do you provide user analytics?
Do we provide user analytics too?
Do you provide user analytics to advertisers to help them improve their offerings?
So we believe in privacy. We don't actually share any third-party data with any player. Of course, our technologies allow advertisers to be able to target exactly who they want, but it's in a manner that respects the privacy of the user. So you as an advertiser can come to us and say we want to target this particular audience, and that can be very, very granular, down to very small geographies, age groups, interest levels, etc., etc. Lot of investment in ad tech on that front, and we allow you to target, but obviously that data remains proprietary to us.
All right, Karan, so there's a very interesting question which has just come up right now.
Sure.
So, Anindya Malik has asked if compression is that efficient, why is casting it on TV so difficult?
I don't know where you are facing the difficulty. I think that casting on TV, so there are different kinds of technologies used, right? So typically you will find TV apps either to be native to those TV platforms, and casting is basically based on a number of different protocols. Google has their Chromecast protocol, Samsung has a casting protocol. There are various different casting protocols. But I think it usually should be pretty, and some of those are sometimes a little complex. But I think those largely have been okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Karan, for helping us out in this. I think it's time for our next session now. The session was very interesting. Thanks a lot, Karan, for helping us out with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers. All right. So, moving on to the next session, titled The Return of Creativity. Just hold on. All right. So, moving on to the next session titled The Return of Creativity to Drive User Acquisition, we now have a panel discussion on how brands and agencies are now looking at introducing creativity to the old banner ads, thereby leading to customer acquisition. To moderate this panel, we have Gopa Menon, COO Isobar, and on the panel, we have Abhishek Joshi, Head of Marketing and Business Partnerships, MX Player, Sandeep Shukla, Head Marketing and Communication, Global Operation Jaguar Group, Sukhpreet Singh, Corporate Head Marketing, Dish TV and Watcho, and Shirish Agarwal, CMO, Panasonic.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
So,
Yeah, hi, good morning.
if everybody's in, great.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, topic that we're discussing today, as Vidit actually mentioned, is the return of creativity in the digital era to drive user acquisition, and we have a great panel today to discuss the same. Just to set the context before I actually get cracking with some of the questions that I have for all of our panelists. Just setting the context, our digital channels, I often believe, are looked upon as a world of metrics and our short-term thinking, short-term thinking. But there are opportunities for brands if they are actually underpinned with the branding basics to drive user acquisition. I've always also believed that digital has a role both in the upper funnel as well as the lower funnel, and how, if used well, can actually work for both branding as well as performance aspects as well. With that, and how we are actually using creatives to drive that user acquisition is also very important. So with that, I would like to actually start this discussion forward. And my first question would be to Shirish. If I could start with you.
Sure.
What role are you seeing digital play in your marketing mix? And is it primarily driving acquisition or branding? And what is the mix that you actually look at when you're actually planning for that?
Okay. Gopa, that's a very interesting question, actually. I'll speak from a consumer durable industry standpoint. Digital plays an extremely important role as far as consumer touchpoints are concerned. I'll just give you some data points. There was a research done by Exchange for Media and Dentsu Aegis Network sometime in January this year. That research talk about, if you look at the overall advertising industry, and if you look at the spends, television takes the maximum share of spends, which is almost 34%, followed by print, which was 29%, and digital gets 20% share. And then you have outdoor, radio, and cinema. Okay, the moment you split this into industry vertical wise, and you look at consumer durable as an industry, this data point changes drastically. In consumer durable, digital leads with 38% of spends, followed by television, which is 30%, and then you have print, which is only 14%. Now, why consumer durable industry spending more on digital? one of the reasons is that longer the purchase cycle or the consumer decision journey, bigger the role of digital as a platform, because that's where consumer is actually spending time in zeroing down on a brand or a product that they want to buy. Another research done by Boston Consulting Group and Google, which says that a durable consumer spends 3 to 4 weeks of time before making up their mind on which brand or which product they have to buy. So as far as our industry is concerned, digital is the most important touch point. And this data that I'm referring to was based on a research which was done in January. Now, post-COVID, you will see this data shifting drastically towards digital even more. Okay. Now, coming to your second question about acquisition or branding, I don't think there is any optimal mix that one can refer to. Reason being, it all depends on the brand's objective. It depends on the brand life cycle also. Now, if I have to talk about consumer industry, we are present in multiple product categories, starting from televisions, ACs, refrigerators, washing machine. Now, our industry is highly seasonal driven industry. Every product category has its own season. So I cannot do away with certain brand led or a product led communication in a particular season. Okay, so that's a must for us. But at the same time, consumer acquisition is extremely important, like you mentioned. But for that, what I need to ensure is that I write down certain topicalities, some certain seasonalities or function, special events to keep that engagement going on and ensure that I, acquire more and more consumers. So that, yes, we have been doing that of late, and we have been extremely, active on platforms like Instagram, Twitter, where, younger audience is there. And we seed in content that drive engagement, and eventually we are seeing certain, acquisitions coming and follower bases growing on our social handles.
Great, Shirish. Supreet, what are your thoughts on that? Basically, are you looking digital primarily for acquisition or branding? What is your mix? How is it different from what Shirish had to actually say?
Yeah. No, like Shirish said, it all depends on, a typical brand funnel or the objective of the brand. Now, what Shirish described was that, to drive preference, to win during that stage where the consumer is researching is very important for durables, like he said. Now, similarly, if you look at a media and entertainment brand like us, it is not just driving, consideration or preference. Now, for example, our new OTT brand called Watcho, there we have to drive awareness, okay, and we also have to throw up, attractiveness of the content, so that is where I think the kind of creatives that you do, the kind of placements and everything becomes important, because you need to have the reach first to drive awareness. And once you have the reach, you really have to make sure that the customer is interested enough to kind of click and download and drive acquisitions. So I think that's where creative also comes in. So it depends on what your objective really is. So I think more and more, when placements and optimization is becoming more automated, I think it's the creative which drives a lot of interest and that clickability and the conversions. So I think to look at it in totality, everything really plays a part. But it's really, if you understand the consumer and what would really make them to really explore more, I think that's very, very critical. And that is where all kinds of, testing and insights also come in. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Sandeep, what are your thoughts on this basically, and how is it actually reflecting on your business? How's your mix and how are you looking at digital from an overall marketing point of view?
See, good part is that digital was always with particularly Jaguar, we were very pro-digital. And though the industry is building construction and typically in a brick and mortar industry, especially an industry like bathroom and lighting, where customer touch and feel is very, very critical. We're still not a DIY country. Nevertheless, we were very aggressive on digital. What COVID has done is just accelerated the process. It just acted like a catalyst for us. So, we now more hyper aggressive. And one of the reason is because of the traditional media has a challenge. So, the outdoor is not so ROI driven anymore. People are averse to print for all obvious reasons. The TV has gone crazy with the news channels are going after, the agendas and topics. So in fact, digital has taken a center stage, I would say. If you, just to give an insight on my category, we always wanted to have, the big ticket advertising, which is on television, larger than life. Reason being, the category, we want to really build an aspirational category, the bathroom as a place. And, we have been successful to a larger extent in India to make bathroom a great lifestyle product. Now, obviously, this big ticket, space advertising, which is theaters and television, work very well. However, the category is a niche category, so you have to be constant on recall, and I can't afford the way FMCG spends on a daily basis on those. So news was for me was a channel to keep a constant recall. What digital has taken that space now, to be constantly aware, be there in the top of mind consumer awareness, also the brand comprehension. Because this category is slightly tricky in terms of awareness and knowledge. So you wanted to have a great bathroom, but how to start that journey is a tricky one. So, what digital does for us is a great brand comprehension. So you get a great insight on the product in terms of how you can really go and purchase, how you can plan it out. And with the current situation, wherein we are looking seriously into acquisition also. As I'm talking to you, I'm on the verge of launching our own e-commerce portal, which speaks a lot, because a country like India, where we have expert for everything to do, for consumers to come on digital platform and select bathroom and lighting product is something unheard of. And that we have really got a motivation from the way people in last 5-6 months have gone on our various digital assets and interacted with us. So I would see how much will be the mix in long run is will difficult, because I think the band is stretched now. So let it come to the normal position then. But I would definitely want to say that digital is here to stay. It's no more a side dish in a marketing mix now. In terms of percentages, as I can say, it's gone up to about 20-25% as compared to 5-6. But percentages are meaningless right now. The intention is that digital is not only for awareness now, it's only for comprehension and also for acquisition.
Great, Sandeep. Abhishek joined. Hope you heard the question that I had actually put up to the rest of the panelists here. Just to reiterate, I was asking, what is the role of digital in the overall marketing mix? Are you looking at digital purely for branding or acquisition, as acquisition purely in that sense? And what is the optimum mix that you are looking at? You are pretty much a digital first brand. How are you looking at this, and how is it different from the other players?
Thanks, Gopa. Good to see you after so long.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm sorry. I was slightly late. I had issues with my logins. See, we are a digital medium, and hence the online world plays a very important role in the mix, with regards to CTA and reminders. It plays a big part. We have been using digital channels for branding in orchestration with the other acquisition strategy. In terms of mix, we internally have been able to define the optimum reach and frequency that we need to build in order to drive cost-effective acquisitions, and that varies basis the genre and category of the shows. Some shows only demand performance marketing, while other bigger ones or the brand campaigns will demand performance branding. Digital CAC is a very strong function of awareness activities, and we measure that very closely.
Interesting. I think when was talking Sandeep and we talked about the post-COVID situation scenario as well. The new normal that we are talking about, or the now normal that everyone is now talking. How has that acquisition strategy changed, or have you actually taken steps to actually drive that? Shirish, if I could actually again go with you in terms of what is your reading of post-COVID scenario, and how are you actually taking steps to drive acquisitions specifically, and what role creative is playing there?
See, creative or say content is the cornerstone of any business. I think creativity is the catalyst that ensures that your product or service reaches to your audience. So no one can subsidize creativity. However, post-COVID, what has happened is that there is a lot of P&L pressure on the business teams. Okay, so everyone wants the maximum bang for the buck that they're spending. Okay, so there is a lot of pressure on the marketers or even on the agency that, you know, these are the KPIs you wanted to chase sales and all. Okay, so we all have been trying to do that. We are setting up a right set of KPIs. We are driving those KPIs, ensuring that we meet our deadlines or our targets. So we have been doing that. This is not just from a KPI point of view. Actually, you know, it's also important because there is a lot of advertising that is happening on digital platform. So what happens is consumers are exposed to too many ads, which leads to saturation or which leads to lack of attention also. So the digital as a platform gives you that much liberty that you can go and target a consumer depending on the stage or a purchase cycle stage that a consumer is in particularly. So you can do very sharp shooting also there. So suppose if I'm in a Evoke stage, I'm looking to buy a refrigerator. Okay, a brand can go and just talk about what features or you know, the benefits that they have to offer, right? The moment consumer gets into a second stage, which is a search stage, where primarily they are doing comparison with multiple brands. Now, this gives you an option to go and do a comparative analysis of your product vis-a-vis competition, tell them why your product is superior than the competition. Now, when it's come to the purchase stage, you can go and just target with the offers and deals that you have to offer. You know, so this is the kind of liberty that digital as a platform offers you, which also breaks the clutter. You know you are delivering a right message to a consumer who is in a particular mindset. So we have been doing that post-COVID, and I think this is gonna stay for a longer now to stay more meaningful to your consumers actually.
Okay. So, Preet, what are you seeing post-COVID scenarios are for your business, and how are you using digital and creativity in that to actually drive acquisition?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting situation, because I see a fundamental change, at least in the way we have to look at it, is because, pre-COVID, I think the competitive advantage in all your digital campaigns and all, if I were to use that term, was more efficiency. It was also you had more leverage in terms of your investment. So volumes and efficiency and better management of your campaigns, that was the key. But the key difference now, in today's scenario post-COVID, I think is no more, just efficiencies. Of course, efficiencies have to be there. They are much more, that we are much more ROI driven now. But I think the competitive advantage is not efficiencies, because I think everyone has the same tools or same kind of, technologies to ensure efficiencies. So I think the competitive advantage has shifted to creativity. Because within the same efficiencies, the same tools which all the other brands have, you have to drive more conversions with lesser amount of money, So I think that is where creativity plays a part. So creativity or creatives as a performance driver, I think that's a major change right now, which I would see. And I think that's a tough task, because we also are, depending a lot more on machines to do our jobs, and creativity thankfully is one where of course I think there are tools now available where you can do ad variations and automate that too. But I think to analyze competitive creatives, to analyze your own creatives, do the testing, and to very fast adapt to what is working best for your brand, I think that is a real task which is happening now, and which should happen much more. So I would sum it up as, creatives, ad creatives as a performance driver are the major change post-COVID.
That's an interesting point, Supreeta, saying the level playing field, which is now open or available for all marketers, and hence the creative becomes a very differentiating factor to drive acquisition. So, Sandeep, do you believe in that, and how are you looking at it? Plus, also you alluded to the fact that you're launching e-commerce platform of yours now. Was it fast forwarded because of the COVID scenario, or you were pretty much sticking to the overall plan?
Definitely, as I said, the plans were always there. It's just fast forward. The situation has led, because a lot of shops are in the containment area. The guys can't open the shops. Customers are willing to have products, because if you need something to renovate, something you want to really upgrade in a bathroom, is something must. And so you can't expect your customers to keep on struggling for it. So I think that has led to this activity really getting into acceleration mode. I think just the first question, which I think my fellow colleagues have also answered this, which is how it will pan out. I think there are some permanent marks will be there, in terms of digital intervention. And it is not only the way we see digital only on social media or a Google search. This whole ecosystem. I'll give you a small example. We have factories, and we are one of the largest manufacturer of bath fitting in the world. And our plant in Bhiwadi is world's one of the largest in terms of manufacturing bath fittings. And it's a very proud moment for us because as a country, India is not seen very high when it comes to manufacturing. And so it's very, very important for our stakeholders, which is our dealers, our distributors, architects, for them to have a real feel of your factory. Now, because a scenario like a COVID, I did until the time vaccine comes in place, I doubt whether people will really move out and visit factories. So we have completely converted a virtual tours, which is a mix of virtual as well as live, and which has really opened a Pandora box for us. Like example, we are setting up a lighting factory, and I think by end of this this year, the factory will be up and running. Unlike bathroom market, where we have a dealer base of 2,000, 3,000, and maybe we have a maximum 4,000 stakeholders, lighting, this game multiplies into 10, 50 times, which is like every nook and corner you have a retailer. Now, they also want to be part of the company and see what company is doing innovation in the factories and all. And it's not practically possible to get them to the factory, So this virtual tours will be completely a game changer. So they can actually see how the bulbs and tube lights are made, how Jaguar bulbs are far superior than any other competitor's brand. So, many such, like example, branding and marketing is always seen a HO-driven function. And, only a few agencies will create a marketing narrative and things will. Now, because of digital, we are doing workshop with the dealers. He's saying how you can contribute on Facebook and Insta, how you can get companies information, how you can acquire new customers, how you can have a dialogue. So they're all feeling very empowered that they are part of the marketing function. So they're not seeing just as a dealer, they're seeing themselves as a marketing agencies also. So this is a fundamental shift which is happening in this approach. Now, and I'm sure there are many such initiatives which will happen. So I see digital is like example, we have recently acquired a software which is called Eloqua from Oracle. Now, which has this amazing, intelligence built in, which I can reach out to my customers at different stage of project, where from a green field to brown field to the final execution. So digital intervention across the stakeholders is a real big, I say, change in the industry which I'm operating in. Now, creativity, to be very honest, creativity is a fundamental for any advertising. Whether is I remember my HTA days when I was working with Pepsi. It was only the cola brand supposed to be creative, and that's the point. But now you have to be creative, and creativity is not only on the content. Creativity has to be in the space planning. Creativity has to be in your technology, the timing. So if I'm doing a Google search campaign on a LinkedIn, do you think what is the weekends are better, the weekdays are better? Where can I be in the morning and just move out by 12 o'clock? Should I spend more money on a competitor's keywords, or should I go generic? So there is a whole lot of things. But yes, definitely. And also you have to really see, if I take a traditional media, which is TV. So TV, you consume content, and advertisers, so largely advertising is common throughout. So various brands are coming. But once you have a mobile phone in my hand, there are a lot of memes are happening, the jokes are happening. So you are competing with various other things. So if your content doesn't have a virality, it doesn't have a creativity, it will be, or just a matter of fact, it will die. So, and sorry to say, there is too much focus on technology. Somewhere I think digital agencies have to acquire a lot of creative talent. And this is where I feel, the main agency, which is like a big daddy of advertising, also creatives will come from there, narratives will set from the mainline agency. I think those barriers have to be broken now. In our case, the Sensor and Sensibility campaign, which is currently going on, is being driven completely from a digital agency. So this is where I feel creativity has to be the central agenda. And And if you have a creativity, and the beauty in the digital is that you can really map your, after I start my paid campaign, my content is still going, increasing numbers, it's still going viral. Should I'm getting more views on it? So it's very transparent, unlike the traditional media. So I again and again say that creativity, and it's just not restricted to content. It restricted to way you create the whole ecosystem of your communication.
Great, Sandeep. I am also a big proponent of saying barriers between a traditional or a digital agency should actually break, and I think digital agencies or the agencies should actually be media neutral and drive that brand narrative in that sense. So it's great that you're doing that. Abhishek, you might be the biggest gainer from the COVID kind of a scenario where you would have seen lots of huge jump in both engagement and downloads on your platform. Post-COVID scenario, what is that you're looking at? How is the behavior change? That's one. And how are you looking at your acquisition strategy? And how's creative playing that role in that sense?
Goba, in my line of business and in the OTT ecosystem, we strongly believe that creativity and innovation need to be the business priorities. There is no other way out in my business ecosystem. Innovation and creativity is the core at what we do, and innovation, in my opinion, is the engine of growth. Yeah, everything else falls and supports that firm belief. In our case, irrespective of COVID, we have been a strong believer of the performance branding as a concept. But now we have started using it a lot more. And due to the sheer absolute number of smart TVs and adequate infrastructure required to build an attribution involving mass media in this country, such concepts get majorly driven by platforms like YouTube and programmatic advertising. Yeah. MX has launched more than 40 odd shows in the last year. And analyzing data points of our previous shows, we have been able to predict the possible impact of the branding activity that we spend across the digital mediums. Just to quote some numbers from a historical learning, we have concluded that every fourth view on YouTube generally translates into becoming our user eventually. I believe such approach truly showcase the transformation in approach from conventional performance or branding to performance branding. With audiences constantly consuming content, which was the COVID scenario, at every given point during their day, it becomes important to stand out, and it's imperative to stand out with creativity, with new campaigns, with new campaign ideas. Even if it is an old show, you need to have different creatives to keep them engaged, and innovation, it is what helps you get to the top.
Great option. Supreet, my next question would be, do you think there is a correlation between business performance and creativity? Is there emphasis required in terms of how you're looking at your creative across platform on digital for acquisition, and what role does that play? So do you see that correlation, and do you map that basically?
Yes, definitely. Like I said earlier, we're seeing increasing correlation, between creative and and performance. So I think creatives as a driver of conversions and performance is increasingly being realized now. So I think that's a curve that I think the whole digital marketing kind of went through. So I think it has come to that point now where other modes of efficiency have been emphasized upon already, and there people have reached those levels of efficiencies. Of course, there is never an end to efficiencies, and more different avenues do open up. But I think now actual creatives and creative approaches and copies based on customer insights and different micro segments, that is becoming much more important as a driver of conversions. So we have seen that now. We have brands like Dish TV, which is a traditional TV brand, and we also have an OTT brand like Watcho, which is a it's a new and it's a totally online brand. So I think both we see that the consumer profiles, the habits of the consumers and the micro segments are absolutely different, and the approaches and the creatives that you need, they're absolutely different. So one approach would not work in the other. Now you can say that, okay, both of them are in the media and entertainment industry. There are a lot of consumers also who are our Dish TV and D2H brand consumers who also consume OTT apps, and they also consume Watcho and MX Player and various other OTT apps. But still, when they are in the mindset for TV is very different for when they are in the mindset for consuming an OTT content. So the way you target them was always our emphasis earlier, but now the way you really talk to them or converse with them through your creatives and make them to be much more interested in the call to action that you want to happen, I think that is taking much more precedence now. So we see increased correlation.
Shirish, what are your thoughts on that? Do you map business performance and creativity, and how do you do that?
Okay, so Gopa, I'll give you an example what we did, especially during COVID times. You know how we use digital as a platform and leverage this for a business performance. So when lockdown got announced, everyone of us were confined to our homes. You were not allowed to move out. Marketing budgets were cut. Since markets were not open, why will you go and advertise, right? But we thought that this should not stop us from engaging with our consumers. So what we did, we started two kind of workshops. One, we have a camera category called Lumix. Okay, we started running camera photography classes with the panel of DOPs that we have with us. Okay, so on a weekly basis, we were doing photography classes with them. And we saw week over week that the people who were coming and joining the workshop actually increased. It resulted in business performance so well once the markets got open that we are still continuing it. There was a huge positive feedback that came from users that we want to continue such classes. Second, for a microwave category, we had pool of chefs that are enrolled with us. We started doing cookery classes. People were cooking from their houses. I mean, we have never cooked so many dishes at house, post COVID. So we started leveraging those chefs, and we started doing cookery classes. Again, the kind of response that we got from consumers, because these are professionals who are coming and teaching you some dishes that probably you are not known to how to cook at your homes. Again, once the lockdown got over, we thought, let's stop this. But the overwhelming response that we got from consumers, we had to continue it. Now, this is also resulting in business performance because we can clearly see the spike in the numbers also. So because this is driving consideration. So I think these are the two examples that I can give you that how we use digital along with certain creativity and driving business performance.
Sandeep?
Yeah.
Your thoughts again, how are you mapping your business performance and the creative that you're using on the digital platform? And how often that you see there is a change, or how often you actually change those mixes to figure out what is working and what is not?
See, we've been historically doing mapping, the performance, and this will be a great injustice to this medium if you don't get into analytics and data. As compared to, I'm not bashing the traditional media, it has its own advantages, but how much a 10,000 screens or how much, how you can map outdoors, it's largely on a gut feel and all, but digital is always a data available. And it's so now the softwares and tools are available. It's just so happened that because I think one of my fellow panelists has said, I think the budgets are under strain, your ROI, those whole profitability. So it has even further, you've gone more deeper and into analysis in terms of performance. And see, there is 100% correlation with creativity and performance and mapping of it. Like example, I could have done any brand building campaign at this point in time because my categories, if you see today a bathroom product ad, you will not go and buy till the time you really need it. So I need to be constantly in the news for the top of mind awareness. So the day you there in the shopping, in the mood, I'm there in the consideration set. Nevertheless, for me, in the social distancing, you have to keep yourself safe. So we came with this idea, sensor and sensibility campaign, which is like, you now use of sensor products, which is not only great in terms of maintaining the social distancing, but it is a great for energy saving, the water consumption and all. And it had really got attraction. we use consumers to create that kind of a pressure on the government authorities and the public at large. So when the schools open, when the malls open, when the airports open, like we have done a couple of airports, we have done a couple of malls, we are into constant engagement with a lot of authorities and government of India, how we can really ensure that schools are safe when they open. So, this is a creativity, the kind of a topic you have chosen. And today, the kinds of leads you're generating, the interest you're generating. So as you know, today, the digital gives you that kind of an advantage. You can have a cost per click, you can have an engagements, you have leads getting generated. In fact, we have our own call center in a way that today you land up on my website with my artificial intelligence and the various navigation tools. I build conversation with you, and this conversation leads into some kind of an interest from a suspect to prospect. So there's a whole mapping is there. So I can actually go and track each and every campaign in terms of, yes, you have to set your parameters. So if I'm doing a campaign with a mixed agenda to build awareness, the larger, like example, there was a time where the factories were shut, the retailers were not able to open the stores. People were at home. We just ran a campaign which is happy to stay in, and we tell, okay, now no more cars, no more parties. Your wellness zone, which is a bathroom place, is a great place to enjoy. You can have a bubble bath. You can do these showers like this. So the campaign agenda was very different. Now that has nothing to do with the lead generation. But moment I moved the gear when the lockdown opened and phase 2, phase 3, we got into the whole agenda of lead generation. For example, I give a very classical case. In my category, you need to handhold customer when he's getting into this whole process of renovating or rebuilding his home. So we have 21 orientation center in the country. And because our larger business model is through dealers and retailers, so we give it to them and they sell it to end customers. But these orientation centers are only to educate customers. So for example, if Supreet wants to do up a home, he simply walks into any of my OC and there's no pressure of buying. You can't buy from there. They just only educates and develops the whole design proposal for you and the material. Now, obviously, this 21 orientation center, because of lockdown, some are open, people are not very jittery coming to it. So we started our online virtual appointments. And I was surprised because physical stores, you have only a catchment area analysis, and only if I have a store in NCR, you people coming from there. And only 21 orientation center means 21 locations. But moment I started a virtual thing, you practically across the India, people started calling up. And with the GoPro technology, I could really take customers to each and every section of the area and help them build the bathroom concept. Now, as far as mapping, they're clearly leads and leads getting converted. So, how from a technology where you're mapping your customers on your website, they're moving into a prospect wherein they want to fix an appointment with you. From there, he has generated a BOQ, a bill of quantity for that. And then we track it with my dealer that whether he has purchased or not. So the good part is that actually I've closed the loop, which earlier in a traditional way is very difficult to, as that. So it's there, and good part, the kind of a tools and the matrix we adopted for ourselves, we are getting better day and day. And one thing we have done is, to a point you can outsource all this. Yes, we have a bunch of great digital agencies working for us. My initiative and my agenda is to build a very strong in-house team, which is a constant on a lookout for this data and analysis, because you can't have a weekly, monthly meetings and quarterly meetings in digital. You have to have daily meetings, alternate day analysis, which is very, very critical. Yeah.
Great, Sandeep.
All right. Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Gopa. I think we're running short on time for the next session. So request you to, if we can just end the session in the next 2 minutes.
Sure. I think I'm almost at the end of the question as well. The last question that I would want to actually put to all the panelists, and that is always my interesting question I always wanted to actually, and I keep on asking CMOs across, how much to invest in creative? So for example, I've often seen that we try to actually create a content which might not be that expensive, and you want to actually put a good amount of money for distribution. Similarly, the other way around as well, people focus less on distribution and create a magnum opus of a creative worth lots of money. what is that mix that you keep on looking at in terms of what kind of creative budgeting should be required and how much to be put on distribution? What rules do you follow when you're actually looking at this thing? So Shirish, if you could start with, and then can have thoughts from all panelists again.
That's a very nice question, actually. And we debate a lot whenever we work on any creative campaign. Yes, we do follow a logic behind it. So the current formula that we have is 1:6. So if I'm investing $1 in creative or content, I ensure that I put 6x of that value to amplify that particular content piece. Having said that, I just wanted to highlight one point. We as a marketer need to understand there is no one size fit all philosophy. There were days that we used to think that taking a TVC, putting it on digital first is a digital first strategy. What works on television might not work on digital. Likewise, digital platforms are also evolving. One content piece that you push on Facebook might not work on Instagram or Twitter. So we need to understand the importance of each platform. While Facebook is there to drive reach, Instagram is there to drive, lifestyle imagery and visual appeal. Twitter is there for engagement, and YouTube is for video repository. So keeping that in mind, you need to develop assets accordingly and keep sufficient budget to amplify that message. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, it's very interesting, and there is actually no formula, I would say. Generally, like Siri said, something like 1:6 would be the norm. But I can recall two things, when I think of this question. One is that good creative ideas are generally not dependent on investments. So you can do a lot with, small amount of money. We saw that during the lockdown and all, where we were constrained. Now, we couldn't do a big shoot, so you couldn't create an asset which was very elaborate or a magnus opus. So, so there were things which were shot from at home, by, creative people, by our agencies. There were no, locations or cameras or sets or any such thing. So at very small investments, very, very good creatives were done. So we had a Dish TV India Recharge Ho Raha Hai campaign, which was absolutely made at home, and it was virtually very low cost. So that's the first thing, that, ideas are probably not dependent so much on investment. And the second thing, which I heard many years ago, was that money follows ideas. So if you have a good idea, investments will also happen, and people will buy that idea, and they will put money into that also. So I think that's what probably it would be. So good creative idea will attract money, and most good creative ideas don't actually need so much of money also.
Great, good to hear that, Supreet, for an agency person like me who keep on actually pushing marketeers for execution of ideas. So that's a good way to hear. Abhishek, what are your thoughts? How much to spend, because you are on both the sides basically, from marketing as well as content.
See, in my view, there's no one size fits all formula here. The more you learn about the strategies you execute, and the more value you see from your previous investments, and the more accurately you will be able to allocate your spending and strategy focus in the future. It is true that businesses get fascinated by the higher pace of acquisition rather than focusing on retention and engagement. However, it's in my view, it's a very short-sighted approach unless the business is able to retain the acquired user. The acquired user is of no value add to the business. So if you have to ask me, I think it's a mix of tangibles and intangibles, wherein the intangibles you will be able to measure, but in the long term. The tangibles are short-term measurables like your CAC and your CP cost per click, and CTRs and all of that, and all of that is a function of the creative, and eventually all of that will lead to brand salience. Fortunately, in my business, the brand is known by the content that it offers and not vice versa. But to build that brand and the go-to destination for entertainment is very important. And that is where all your creativity, innovation, and expense have to eventually lead to. I mean, even if a marketer or a brand custodian does not realize, he would assume that he's only spending on a particular show or getting views for that show, or getting building salience for that show and awareness for the show, eventually it will all lead up to brand. And if you haven't accounted for it, and if you haven't planned for it, then your short-term objectives will also go for a toss.
Good point, Abhishek. Last word to you, Sandeep. Basically, what is your reading on that in terms of the investment levels and how much to actually put in for creating and distribution?
I won't dishearten you. Budgets, media is always good. We need a lot of money to do all that. But see, there is no debate on creativity and the content. But this is also, I remember this, there's a commentator called Narottam Puri. He used to say, now India can only win this match if this surprise and this miracle. And then he suddenly says miracles don't happen again, very so frequently. So your great creative ads, they don't come very frequent, So yes, we all have this desire to have a really, which is a great campaign which goes viral on its own. And there are many examples, with digital, without digital. But you need to have a balance of, you need a captive money to build your creative to a certain level, then it start going viral. You have to have that kind of a base. So even I've seen one of the great ideas, but if you're not investing on it, it will die its own death. It will reach a certain level, So you need to have a right mix of media budgets, the media might, to reach out. However, the smartest strategy is a collaboration. So, you get content where people are part of this. So if for example, we are doing a wellness campaign because, there's immunity and well-being, people staying at home, people spending more time at home, so this whole awareness on immunity, health, well-being, wellness. So we got really top of the architects, interior designers across the world to come and have the viewpoints. And we created a lot of content around them they're talking about. So we have created a whole lot of content on wellness, how to do things better, and these small mini videos. So I'm not only doing forwarding, they themselves doing it. And then further. So sometimes, I'm sure there are many other ideas like that. So when you do a collaborative working, when you involve your customers, involve your stakeholders into the content, then obviously the cost load goes down. So these are some smarter ways by which you can make your keep an optimum balance. But there is no shortcut to creativity. And we have done, and with an classical example, because I was in the cola industry, we have wasted tons and tons of money in just pulling each other. We have never worked for consumption. So so I think somewhere a creativity which lead to people buy more, creativity which people understand the product better, I empower end customer more. These are the things which are always handy, and it always works.
Great.
Well, thank you so much to all our panelists. Gopaji, thank you so much for moderating it so well. Thanks a lot, Sukhpreet ji, Shirish ji, Abhishek, and Sandeep. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. And we'd now like to move on to our next session.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot to all our panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you, my panelists. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So we now move on to our last panel discussion of the day, titled Big Picture, the Need to Pivot. On the panel, we have Bharat Khatri, Country Head, India Zaxis, Rahul Karthikeyan, Director, Marketing, Upgrade, Sushant Mishra, Senior Director, Digital Marketing and Partnerships, Grofers, and Rajneel Kumar, Business Head, Expansion Projects and Head of Products at Z5 India. The panel is moderated by Kedar Kulkarni, Business Director, Paid Media, Digital Strategy and Analytics at PureTech Digital.
Great. Thank you so much for the intro, and really glad to sort of be a part of this panel and excited to learn from all the big wigs in the industry. I'll do a quick round of introduction for all of the people that are in front of you on the screen, the panelists, who I said the big wigs were, and excited to learn from them. So we have Rajneel Kumar, I think, who's the business head for expansion projects and head of products for Z5. Who's going to be joining us for this discussion today, which is related to really the big picture and need to pivot to CDPs and DMPs and all the other MarTech discussion that we want to do. Then we have Sushant Mishra, who's the Senior Director for Digital Marketing and Partnerships for Grofers India Private Limited. We also have Rahul Karthikeyan, who's the digital marketing head and I think marketing head for Upgrad. In the previous stints, I think he's also been a big stalwart from the agency background, spending more than 10 years in digital. And I think I should not miss Bharat, who leads India for Zaxis. He's the head of country head for India for Zaxis, which is a programmatic platform. So welcome on board, guys. Once again, all of these people are more than 10 years of experience, and really glad to have all of you guys on the panel, and excited to learn from you guys about things we are going to discuss today. So glad to have you on board. Let's straight jump into the conversation straight away, and we are going to talk about a little bit about CDPs and DMPs and marketing technology and how it has evolved and what we should be doing. A quick anecdote that I wanted to share with you. So I was being from an agency background, we interact with a lot of CMOs and people like you who decide on the next course of action as to where to spend the money and what technologies to invest in. And often in meetings, I get asked these questions that, yeah, CDP and I've heard about it, but I don't know what exactly it is. So once in a meeting, I was asked that CDP is more like GDP. So you hear about it, but nobody knows how exactly it works and how to use it. So we look forward to this session to interact with you guys and know better about it. I want to start quickly by jumping into the conversation and understanding from a primary point of view, when I heard about these terms first, it was very important to differentiate between a CDP, DMP, and understand what the difference is going to be like and how the usage is going to be. So let me straight jump to probably Rajneel to give us an insight about that and start our conversation there.
Sure. Great, Kedar, and I hope I can be heard loud and clear. So, yeah, you said well over 10 years of experience, people here. I have exactly double of that. And as far as CDPs and DMPs are concerned, I think I've seen the birth of them and evolve into fancy names that they have become right now. So it's been an interesting journey to see what has happened. I think at the core of it, before we confuse between terms and buzzwords that everybody keeps talking about, it's essentially about, it has always been about understanding your customers better. Whether you look at things which started off from an SMS era, then went into WAP, and then it came into what is truly internet right now, or the current era where every action that the customer performs on a particular application or web property that you have, you're able to track and record. So it has always been about just understanding your customer. When it comes to CDP, it is nothing but being able to store it at a place and then being able to take all of these signals and be able to use it for making some actions on top of it. Maybe I can give a very simple example of an OTT service like ours, which is one of the largest OTT services, and what would be the signals that we get from a user. Let's see that a user coming in from, say, from Delhi logs into his Z5 application and just launches it. The moment he comes on board, the application sends back that XYZ user who is signed in from this particular location has come onto the platform. After that, he performs certain activities. He would browse through the platform. He would finally decide he or she could possibly search through the content available and then take the action of playing it. When the user is playing it, the user would play it for a certain particular piece of time. And there can be two types of users who are free and users who have paid for a subscription. If it is free, then you would play certain ads to them and then you'd be able to record it. So in this one small session of, say, 6 minutes, what you've been able to get from the user is able to understand his location, his content behavior, his propensity to ads, and then you can take all of this to do a bunch of things. You can, once this data is available, you can either communicate back with him when the next episode of the series he's watching is available. So that goes on the MarTech side. You could also look at what content he watched and what ads he saw and whether he's completed the ads or not. And then those signals would go into making better ad decisioning for him, which would go on the ad tech side, so on and so forth. And for people who have not subscribed, you would see what is the point at which you are able to kind of prompt the user to be able to say that, okay, you've been watching it with ads, but hey, why don't you come and watch it without ad? Plus you get a lot of these other content. So all of this combined is coming from the data sources that you've been collecting from it. And it necessarily could not be one tool. It could be multiple tools that have given you this information, and then you're able to take some action on it. So that in core is a CDP. When it comes to the DMP essentially comes when you are looking at creating third-party segments or lookalikes of your users that you have and say, how can I now enrich the user understanding better? And how can I find similar users like this who I would want to reach out to for marketing and either for acquisition or anything else that you'll be doing? That's where really the DMP comes from, where you're leveraging third-party data. So first-party data available on your platform goes to the CDP, all the third-party data goes up to the DMP, and that really is a very simplistic way to possibly understand what's happening with the users and the data.
Absolutely, that was very clear and once again insightful to know it better and thoroughly from you guys. I'll quickly jump to Sushant and Rahul for some inputs here. Rajneel has very well defined as to what the difference between a CDP and a DMP is. So Sushant, to you particularly, I wanted to ask, and of course Rahul too, because you guys have been in the forefront of a lot of traffic and good business that has been happening in the last 6-8 months, considering you're one of the foremost categories which has developed. What do you think is the need for people to start using CDPs even more these days? If you could elaborate a little bit about that, Sushant, like what would be the identifiers for somebody to start with it?
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. Yeah. So, see, I mean, there has always been this debate of CDP and DMPs, and there is always this discussion that what kind of organization should work DMPs and what kind of organization should use CDPs. See, I mean, it's an ecosystem. Both complement each other. They have limitations. They have their own strengths. Like for an organization like us, who are heavily dependent on first-party data. Now, and this data run into millions of users. We can't survive without a CDP. It is very, very critical to us because a CDP, customer data platform, helps you build consumer profiling. When this profiling gets built every time the user comes and interacts on the app or on any other platform, or be it web or mWeb, it kind of builds in that profile. We get a lot of insights out of this platform, out of CDP, basis which we create a lot of consumer segmentation. Each of these segments and cohorts of consumers have different problems to solve. Just to give you examples, we are a cart-driven business. We kind of track new users and old users on the platform and their cart journey. We call it cart rank 1, cart rank 2, cart rank 3, and so on. We through this through a CDP platform, we get to know what is the kind of customer age on the platform, what is his CLTV, what has been his average order value on the platform, and how soon he's going to become a loyal consumer for me. So these are data signals that we get from the platform, and we monitor it at a day-in-day level. Beyond this, what we've also done is, we have created consumer segmentations like, a cart rank 1 to 4, maybe who's experiencing the platform, and at a very initial stage. So that is a habit forming stage. That stage will have a different business problem to solve. And people beyond, say, cart rank 4 to 8, will have different problems to solve because they have somehow the habit is formed, and beyond 8+ transactions, they are very, very loyal and habitual on the platform. So they will have a different problem to solve. All these data insights helps us in optimizing consumer journeys, optimizing marketing costs, and so on. So therefore, it is very, very critical to not only use this platform but how you use this platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Rahul, if I can quickly, get your inputs on the same question, because I'm sure you have a perspective to add since you are in a, slightly different business, I would say, than Sushant. Actually, a lot different than what he does, but in terms of behavior, maybe you are in a similar business of picking up signals. So if you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. In fact, thanks for this opportunity. Good morning, everyone.
So we are a very, I'll say we are at a very early stages in the edtech category, right? And what we have seen in my experience of the last 18 months, it's been phenomenal. The traffic has grown significantly higher. In fact, at a much faster rate. Post COVID, these numbers are only spiking up even further, right? So the most important element that came to us, which was the need of the hour, was the CDP. Then it was important, and we're of course obviously not at that level where an e-commerce giant like Gofus, for that matter, has everything inbuilt. We had to build everything from scratch, right? So we've not even reached to a point where the e-commerce flow is also seamless. Yeah. So it became imperative for us to first understand the consumer. So CDP started off. The initial element which we started picking up was understanding this consumer, and what are their drop-offs, why are they dropping off. So we started passing a lot of these events, and we realized, a lot of people, especially our repeat visitors, only come and download our brochure, for that matter. Right? So they've kind of sold out for the course, but now they want to understand more about the program. So they would come back, download the brochure, and then drop off. Now, how do we really keep this engagement models in? Right? So what we started doing then is getting this whole CDP infrastructure at the backend and started integrating it with multiple layers of platforms. So there is the mid funnel, wherein if the lead has come, what is the kind of typical journey of his would be. What we also understood is a typical part to purchase funnel for an edtech category. It ranges between around 14 days to 20 days, because we are also higher ARPU. I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys would know, we do not really give out a very low ARPU courses, right? We are pretty serious about our students. So my average ARPU itself, or the course fee itself, would range 50,000 and above, right? So we invest in students, right? So it means a lot of time and investment. Most of our students gets into research mode, right? So they're always doing some of the other research before they even in fact put their investment on education, right? So the biggest problem statement that we've seen in our category is upskilling. People don't know that they need to do upskilling unless you do a lot of research work, right? So, and hence this data, the entire CDP plays a very critical role, because the moment user comes in, we give them a lot of facts and figures. We give them, we kind of engage with them with our testimonials, professor videos, and so that they know that the action at the end of it, what they're trying to take, will be result oriented from a future point of view. Right. So this is an investment for them, which is long term and not short term. Right. So, and hence what we've done is we've kind of really created these buckets based on the journey of a consumer. So we also built in a scoring model, right? So over on top of the CDP model, so that I also practically know how many people are absolute low intent and they're just doing window shopping, and how many visitors are also in a mid funnel who have shown interest, but they are not able to kind of move into the journey as well. So I think all in all, I think that's something which is very very critical for us, and what we've seen is over a period of time, it has given us a good ROI, and now we are kind of looking at scaling up as well. So yes, it is very very important. It depends on the category. For us, very early stages, so we have a long way to go. I'll be very happy when we reach the point of what Sushant mentioned of Gofus on cart 4 to cart 8. We are not even at cart 1 right now. So, but yeah, I think that's the journey that we're trying to build.
Awesome, thank you so much. And I think all three of you, Rajni, Sushant, and Rahul, given a perspective from the brand side of things per se. And it's important, of course, like you mentioned, to have the audience signals, the right segmentation, be able to treat each of them separately so that you can draw some conclusions out of it and move to the optimization of the journey that we are talking about from a CDP. I wanted Bharat, your input particularly because you represent the publisher side or the programmatic side of things here, and I'm sure you have slightly different take on CDPs. You would also want to talk about a little bit about DMPs, and I'm sure Rajneel can also add a value to what you're stating. But would like to hear from you from an organization's perspective. How does this play out for you particularly, and how important are these elements that we spoke about for you?
Sure. Thank you again, Kedar, for the opportunity. I think on the DMP part, we were pretty much early startup. We were one of the organization which offered the proprietary DMP way back in 2013. And I still imagine and recall when we walked down to a client office in 2014 and showing them 100 million cookie base DMP where they can plug and play, create segmentation. It was a wow factor way back in that time. And I think from 2014, I still recall that 2016 is somewhere down the line where most of the organizations started moving towards mobile as a device, both in terms of investment, both in terms of understanding the consumer graph. And immediately we also started upgrading our DMP from a cookie-based DMP to a mobile-enabled ad ID-based DMP. And that's how the 2016 journey started. I think overall, if I see, the DMP journey has quite evolved, both for us as an organization. We currently have a DMP which is roughly ranging 350 million unique profiles in India, almost 65 to 70% of the Indian digital audience base. And definitely there are 150 plus brands within our portfolio who are using this DMP to segment audiences, connect their first party data from their website, bring their CRM data, engage with both the sets of first party, second party. And now I think over the last 2 years, we've also seen a sudden rise of third party audiences in a market like India, where we talk about telecom, insurance, some of the e-commerce players, they're also opening up the monetization opportunity. So we were able to far more offer what you say, a 360 view of a consumer. But I think if I see from a CDP comparison, and I will share some use cases also for the last 6 months, what we have developed, which is a combination of a DMP and a CDP. So I think in a CDP environment, one big differentiator which I can talk about is the PII data. And I think most of the brands where we have handholded them and deployed a CDP, we have clearly categorized how can we link it back to a personal identifier like a mobile number or an email ID, and build more accurate segmentation, which is far more linked to their business use case, not just advertising or a digital use case, which we were basically creating a fundamentals on DMP. So I think one of the use cases which we developed for a CPG client during the COVID was using combination of CDP and a DMP. We were able to identify that pre-COVID, which are the lat longs and the ward level where the sales were high in the retail store. And in the COVID period, when the consumer was not allowed to move out, primarily in the Q2, which is April, May, June, how can we potentially utilize their offline sales data, map it with the lat long, and understand which all pockets we should advertise on digital, and ask the consumer to buy the same product from an e-commerce store, because the brand was selling the product on multiple e-commerce stores. So I think this is fundamental use case where a combination of CDP is helping you segment your first party data and your sales data. And it's a combination of online and offline, which at the moment DMPs can't ingest and offer. And on the other side, you're mix and matching it data set with the DMP behaviors. Is the consumer in an in-market behavior to buy a grocery or to buy a specific CPG product? So that's how you are able to activate, I would say, again, a 360 view of a consumer, and do a better sharpshoot targeting as well, and maybe answering the need what consumer is already showcasing you in your first party database.
Thank you so much for that. That was really insightful, especially the use case that you mentioned, Bharat. And from what I hear from you, if I had to sum it up, basically it's very important to sort of have a unified view of the customer, mapping all interactions that they are having, of course, for audiences who are your own, and of course from getting insights from the third-party audiences wherever you can, wherever you have devised graphs coming into play. My next question is particularly for Rajni and Sushant and Rahul one by one. And I know you guys manage bigger brands per se, but I always, like we as an agency always ask this question as to whether my brand needs a CDP, or what scale do I need to be? Is there a telltale sign for a particular brand to decide whether they should go forward with the CDP or not? Is there a traffic number there? So Rajni, if you can throw some light on that, because you had phenomenal experience in this regard.
Sure. My personal take on it is that the day you go live with a particular product, you should be collecting data. And the need for CDP starts on day one. Having said that, you see, a lot of people get scared when they hear the word CDP. It means money, it means time, it means a lot of, these, brilliant people sitting in some magic, which suddenly then translates into actionables, etc. And I think time has come for everybody to get away from that fear and understand that while CDP means, collecting data and being able to action it, with the industry the way that it is existing today, and with ecosystem partners like Google, AWS, and Microsoft, etc., what they have really been able to do over the last 4 or 5 years is democratize being able to action these out into it. So as long as you're able to collect signals, from one data source, from multiple data sources, from 100 customers or 1,000,000 customers or 100 million customers. The ability to scale it up from 0 to going up to 100 million is there in the ecosystem. Having said that, again, what I think is very required at a leadership level is to understand what is the objective they want to achieve. If that objective is very clearly defined, that, okay, I want to be better at marketing, whether it's reaching my own users or finding new customers. I want to be better at selling to my customers on my platform. I need to be better at retaining them on the platform. As long as those objectives are clear, the people from within the organization can partner with a lot of these ecosystem partners who have built out very scalable modules to be able to start building. At one point of time, obviously, once you scale, the time will come when you would want to get away from the restraints of buying off-the-shelf product and saying that, okay, now today for each customer, I'm passing, say, 10 million signals a month, which are going in. Therefore, I need something which scales, with each of the customers, and then it marries into so many other systems which are there. At that point of time, you might want to start building out your own, which again, the building blocks are available. You would just need the expertise to put it together. So to answer your question specifically, day one of going live today, there is no reason one should not have a CDP in place. And the ability to scale over a period of time should be defined by the goals of the organization that have been clearly set out. And that can define the inflection point on when you want to go from getting something off the shelf to building your own.
Thanks for that, Rajneet. And I'll move to Sushant with the same question with a slightly different, tangent to it, Sushant. So, like what Rajneet was mentioning, that it is ambition for everybody to start on day 0, but not everybody will probably believe in the, process as well as the tool, because there is a significant amount of investment there also to be made. So my question to you, Sushant, is there a traffic number that one can associate with to say after, a particular number, it makes sense? Or if there is no number to it, how does one convince management that you have internally from a business case standpoint, and what all do you need for that? Especially because you've done this journey in Growth, so you would know that.
Right. See, I mean, I completely agree with Rajneel when he said that, it starts on day 0. You need to have a setup. I mean, because you have started interacting with consumers, so it's very important to understand that audience set right from day 1. But there are challenges that you mentioned. An organization might not be well funded, or wants to explore, or is exploring the platforms, or is not well equipped in building that ecosystem. There's also a lot of these startups are tech heavy people, and they're heavy in tech setup. So what they do is they decide that, okay, we'll not invest heavily in these platforms. We'll try to build in these platforms. It works. To a certain extent, when maybe if I have to put some numbers, because specifically asked me for numbers, if your base of consumer base are in few thousands, there you can actually manage by running SQL queries and and getting those insights. But when you grow and the database or the consumer base goes into millions, that's where everything falls flat. Therefore, you need to have a CDP in place to completely map the first party data, and then and analyze. See, you have to take quick business decisions, right? And so therefore, when your user base becomes into millions, you need systems who can churn this data out faster for quick business decision making, right? So therefore, this is very, very important. On the DMP side, like for example, we've just started monetizing our platform. Now, we don't have a DMP in place, but then we are managing it with our internal systems. But we soon will need or soon in the process, we're figuring out that, we will need a DMP. See, for trade partners who have experienced the platform, they know, okay, when they put $1, they know they have experienced the ROI that they get. But for non-trade partners who have not invested on Growth as a platform, they will need a lot of insights, targeting to run their campaigns on a platform, and that won't be possible without a DMP. So yes, I think it is an ideal thing to have these platforms and ecosystem right from the start. But yes, if you, like I said, if you don't have a system, but then in the future, like if you, depending on your business goals, you need to have the systems in place and create that ecosystem.
Thank you so much. So I'll move to Rahul, I think with the same question, but a slightly different question.
I'm so sorry to disturb you, Kedar. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Like we would want to actually move on with the next session. So if you guys can just wrap this session in the next 2-3 minutes. So sorry.
Sure, no problem. So I'll quickly move to Rahul and then Bharat, and then we can sum all of this. Rahul, from a business case perspective, to sort of put it into a requirement and running for all of you, because you've done this at Upgrad. What would be some of the things that you would want to say to, especially people who are in the audience today, who would want to put up a business case to their management? How should they go about it? What should be like the first steps for them to put all of this together?
Sure. It's a pretty tricky question, honestly, and that depends on the management as well. So, see, there is no brand in India which does not work without an ROI goal, right? And we as a brand, every brand, if I'm investing 10 lakhs, I need a equal amount of ROI. In fact, 2.5x, right? So that's what kind of ROI is expected. So now it all depends on what's this kind of sheer scale and what's the kind of growth that we are looking at. Right. So if there's a clear vision statement which involves, in the next 3 years, I want to be number one, and in terms of the competition space where you are, then CDP is going to play a very, very important role from two elements. One is obviously reach. Second is from a costing point of view, right? So while you might find front loading a lot of money in the beginning, you will leverage out of it 6 months, 12 months, right? So that requires a lot of patience. Right? So the ROI you will not get any incremental ROI on a very immediate basis, but you will get it over a period of time, right? So now that depends on how you kind of pitch it, right? So, and how do you kind of really build that journey and pitch it to the management as well? I think that's the very, very critical part. So two things which is very important over here is what ROI are you driving and how much of that ROI, and can you forecast this ROI? And then it becomes absolute sense to have the CDPs and TMPs. But otherwise, see, from a management point of view, it'll still be too much of a layman conversation, right? So we'll have to explain this entire journey as simple as possible, because there are only few digital market experts sitting out there, right? So, and you don't necessarily go all the way on top, right? And that's one of the biggest problem statement I see. So I think one is you need to understand what ROI, what is a profitable line that you should be at, and then ability to kind of scale at it and be able to drive forecasting. You need to forecast at what scale do I make more revenue out of this, right? So, and if you're clearly able to kind of articulate this, I think you're right there. You're in there.
I think some of those may have heard it and will bring it into practice, hearing you how to do it. Bharat, my last question is for you, particularly from a publisher angle, because this conversation must come to you on a day-to-day basis, whether I should choose a CDP or a DMP or how can you help? And from a content creator's perspective also, I wanted to know what are the use cases that you go with to sort of make people believe that this is something worth their money?
I think I would just answer this in a two basic pointers. So most of the DMPs are already available in the market. You can plug and play. And for digital first clients, most of the businesses like Sushant and Rahul mentioned or Rajneesh mentioned, it's very easy because you already have the digital footprint of the consumer. But for businesses which are more into traditional like auto, CPG, retail, the first initial point of consideration for a management or for us also to recommend a DMP or a CDP is to understand how the data collection is going to work. Because most of the challenges are that the data is not centralized, the CRMs are not very knit together at a central level. And basically, in the current digital ecosystem, when most of the spends are going to walled garden, there is no data passed by coming for most of these big advertisers. So I think the initial framework which everyone has to build and what we also go through is what is the data collection journey? What all channels are we going to collect the data? And then what is the form of the data? Is it only a digital asset data like a cookie and an ad ID? Or do we have a PII data like a mobile number, email ID? And then what is the use case that the management or the organization is looking forward? Is it just to run marketing campaigns, or is it for an insight also, or for defining a custom life cycle as well? So depending on the objective and the use case, then a typical recommendation go in. And something which I will agree with my other fellow panelists as well. I think the last survey which I saw from Forrester clearly said that India as a market, 63% of the respondents says that they have invested in MarTech over the last 3 years, but they don't know how to use it. So the biggest gap in the market is on the right expertise. Brands are investing in the MarTech tools, whether it's a TMP or a CDP or different other automation tools to engage and drive personalization. But I think the bigger challenge is, one is collecting the right form of data, segmenting it into a better use case for a business. And third, what is the expertise that you require to actually build an ROI model by utilizing these data sets?
Absolutely great. Glad to have inputs from all of you. Instead of me summing it up, because you guys are experts at it, I'll maybe leave you with a question and just expect one line from each of you because we are short on time. My question, starting with Rajneel to you, is: has life as a marketer changed after the advent of CDP from performance marketing? And maybe you could give a couple of lines on that to sum it up.
Couple of lines is very tough. I mean, every day we are learning, unlearning, and learning some more. And that's really how the journey is. We talked about cookieless, we talked about ad IDs. Now we'll be in a without ad ID world. New things which are bothering us now is when you share data with partners, what is the safest way to share it? And that's another project we have now kicked off, is without sharing ad IDs, how can you do matches and give the same confidence to advertisers when they want to use our platform to upload their data. So yeah, it's an exciting journey and which always keeps evolving.
Great. Thanks so much, Rajneel. Glad to have you. Sushant, if you can add your valuable inputs to that.
Yes, I mean, it's absolutely critical to have this ecosystem in place because it kind of makes you understands your consumer better. It helps you in optimizing their journey better, and also kind of helps drive conversion. But I just want to add one point, like where we all miss as marketers is, see, consumers are not data signals only. Consumers are also human, and you also need to have a human element in the marketing. And what we at Growthers do is, apart from creating this ecosystem of CDPs and DMPs, understanding all signals of consumers, storing them, segmenting them, cohorting them, we also kind of speak to these consumers one-to-one. There is a insights team that is there in our marketing setup, who kind of speaks to these consumers day in and day out to understand the real pain points. So this human angle is kind of overlapped with all these data signals to kind of form a complete holistic marketing strategy. So yes, I mean, that's how I want to summarize.
Great. Thank you for that. Rahul, I'll jump to you straight.
Yeah, I think it's been a great learning. I think it's just one good thing about at Upgrade is we've done all of it from scratch, and it's very much at early stages, and initial signals are looking very promising. So we have a long way to go, but we're learning it by the day. Right? So I think one thing is we've really understood the fact that is CDP, TMPs, both are going to be playing a very important role for us, and we're working towards that as quickly as possible. So I think that's been ongoing. Yeah.
Great. Bharat, any last thoughts?
I think something similar what the fellow panelists said, that every day is a new learning. So almost a decade of learning in terms of how the cookie environment is now going to get shut down, mobile ad IDs helping you connect on offline and online. And I think very sooner what we will see a world where we will focus more on household level targeting rather than falling at an individual for most of the brands. And the new devices like connected TV, which is flourishing in India as well. I think these are the new mediums which will redefine how we do targeting or how we drive a personalized message with most of our consumers.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, all you guys. It was wonderful interacting with you. And I have a lot to take back to and sort of change our approach in the way that we deal with brands. So thank you so much for your time and the insights. It was really exciting to have you guys on.
Thank you. Cool.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot. All right, thank you, everyone, to all the panelists who joined in. We now move on to the awards ceremony, but before starting, we will be having a quick poll for the audience, and you guys will be having about 40 seconds to participate in it. Could we have the poll, please? All right. So the question, the poll basically, which was, it said, which online platform do you prefer to advertise on? And through all the data which we've got, about 59% people, which is the majority here, 59% of people have said that they prefer Facebook as an advertisement tool. And second platform which comes is my particularly favorite, which is 30% of people have said Instagram, and just 0% have just told us about Twitter, and about 11% people have said that they like to prefer LinkedIn for online platform as an advertisement. I think it's the right time now. We can move ahead with the award ceremony. Before starting with the awards ceremony, request you to tweet using the hashtag FEBWC. And now let's begin with the awards ceremonies. Our first category is the best B2B campaign. Could we have the AV, please? And the winner is Barco India Multi-Touch Campaign Media Outreach 2019-2020 by Commune Brand Communications, Silver. Congratulations to the winner. The next category is B2C campaign. Could we have at the nominations, please? And the winners are ICICI Lombard General Insurance Live Well, Clap Well by Ad Factors PR, Silver. Licious Baat Badal De by Ogilvy and Mather Bangalore, Silver. PepsiCo Lay's Guess India Smiling with Smile Deke Dekho. Wonderman Thompson India, Edelman India, Mindshare India, Silver. Congratulations to all the winners. Let's move on to the next category, which is Best Branded Content. Could we have the AV, please? And the winners are Axis Bank adding masala to banking, low lintas, bronze. SBI Life Insurance Real Life, Real Stories featuring Suyash Jadhav by What Consult, Silver. Congratulations to all the winners. Let's move on to the next category. The next category is Best Campaign in BFSI. Could we please have the AV? The winner is Motilal Oswal, Think Equity, Think Motilal Oswal by Motilal Oswal, Silver. Congratulations to all the winners so far. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next award category, which is Best Environmental Excellence Award. Could we please have the AV? And the winner is Flipkart Group Flipkart by Flipkart, Silver. All right, thank you so much. Congratulations to all. Join us at the same time, same place tomorrow. We will begin the day with interesting dialogue around the changing dynamics of the TV business, introduction of a new format such as Zplex, use of AI and ML to optimize marketing strategies, the direct-to-consumer strategy followed in retail, amongst others. This was day one. I would like to see you on the day 2 and 3 as well. Don't forget to tune in. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we conclude the day 1 at Financial Express presents Brandwagon Conclave and Awards Do join us tomorrow for day 2 as we explore the business of marketing. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience to this virtual event. Goodbye and stay safe.